What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Uncle Agent in the building. Today we're going to be talking about gun ownership, more specifically what responsible gun ownership looks like, because anybody can buy a gun, but not everybody's ready to own a gun. I'm gonna say that again. Anybody can buy a gun, but not everybody's ready to own a gun. It's a responsibility. It's a big responsibility. You got this thing now. This is fake, by the way, but you got this thing now. And with this thing, you have the power to change the trajectory of somebody else's life if they fucking with you. You got the power to change the trajectory of your own life even if you're using it the incorrect way. That's a big responsibility, and it's not to be taken lightly. So in order to make sure that you're on the safe side, let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? So first and foremost, before we get into any conversation, I am Agent 007, Uncle Agent 007. You know what I'm saying? If you're younger than me. Yeah, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I currently live out in the dirty South. I'm in Florida. I am a gun owner. I am a Second Amendment supporter. I everyday carry a Beretta APX. Yeah, that's my everyday. I have a growing gun collection. If you want to see it, you could check out that video, but I have a growing collection. Growing up in Brooklyn, New York, I've seen how guns in the wrong hands can affect my community. I'm an independent researcher, so I've done the Googles, I've seen the stories, I've seen the news reports of gun violence in the Black community. I've read articles, seen the statistics behind gun violence in the Black community. And I obviously see that this is an issue that needs to be addressed, that needs to be talked about, that needs to have a conversation. And now that I own a gun, I'm realizing the responsibility that I have now that I have this gun. And because there wasn't anybody that I could really talk to get this information from, I had to do the research on my own, but I don't want that for you. You know what I mean? That's why we're here. That's what this community is all about. I'm all about the progression of the mind. I'm all about change. I'm all about becoming a better person. And as I become that better person, I'm going to help you. I'm going to share some of that information that I'm learning to also help you on your journey. That's what, again, this is what this is all about. This channel is all about that progression of the minds, but I also happen to be into guns. So, you know, we gonna intertwine it, you know, make it work, whatever. All right. So yeah, that's a bit of a backstory about me. That's why this is important to me. And that's why I feel like we need to have this conversation, or we should have this conversation. So the number one thing, this is not in a particular order, but they kind of go in order. So the number one thing to realize once you purchase this gun, or even before you purchase a gun, is the mental responsibility that you have now that you have this gun. Now, with this gun, you have the power to change the trajectory of somebody else's life. You can injure somebody, you can unalive somebody, you can obliterate somebody with a gun, right? You don't want to take that lightly. That's not something that should be taken with a grain of salt. I got a gun, it's just a gun. No, this can change somebody's life. And you're not God, you know, so you shouldn't really have that power. But because there's criminals out there that for some reason don't want peace, there's the possibility of the United States going under civil unrest and there being no police to protect you, so you have to protect yourself and your family. Because of that, it's a good idea to have a gun, right? And again, you got to be responsible. Another thing that people don't think about, you can also change the trajectory of your own life. If you use this gun irresponsibly, you could end up in jail. You could end up injuring yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like people don't even think about that. Like there's a statistic. Hold on. I got some statistics over here. They say 39% of unintentional firearm injuries happen to Black or Hispanic children. That's unintentional injuries. So imagine how many, it's kids in this statistic, but just imagine how many people are, this is fake by the way, picking up a gun and just unintentionally, because they don't have the proper education surrounding this thing here, they're just picking it up and injuring themselves or people around them. But again, that proper education, we're going to be able to counteract some of that stuff. Again, that's what this conversation is about. So number one, having or being aware of the mental responsibility that you now have, now that you have this gun. Number two, situational judgment. Too often we hear about senseless killings in the Black community. People dying over petty arguments. Oh, you stepped on my sneaker. Oh, you was talking to my girl. I know you've seen that video. I don't even want to talk about that, but you've seen that situation. Road rage. Parking spot wars, like simple arguments that are escalated by guns. There's so many situations where we see people with improper situational judgment. I'll make it simple. I want you to know that once you introduce a gun to a situation, let's say there's an argument going on. Let's say somebody hit your car. Let's say whatever the situation is, there's a situation and you introduce a gun, you've automatically escalated it. Just keep that in mind. So with that in mind, you also want to think to yourself like, okay, I have a gun now. I want to be wise, which means I should not be taking it out for any and every situation. Now that I have this gun, I should not be changing who I am to become this hothead type person, getting into beefs with people just because I know I can solve it with this gun. That is not responsible at all. I'll say that again. That is not responsible at all. You should only be using a gun if your life feels threatened. You have to have the proper situational judgment to make sure that you're making the right decisions. That's very important. So don't forget that. Situational judgment. Now, under safety or gun safety, three major things that have been stressed to me, whether it's through a YouTube video, whether it's from a RSO, whether it's from the gun store that I purchased the gun for. So I'm just going to go over three simple things. So the first thing is going to be how you store your gun. So that's very important. Again, that statistic was almost 40% of kids end up injured unintentionally because of a firearm. So make sure that you're storing your gun in a safe place. It's a very simple step that you can take. Very simple. Just buy yourself a safe. Get some type of locking mechanism that can lock down that gun. Or just making sure that the gun is stored away someplace that's not easily accessible to kids or just anybody that comes into your home. That's simple. But that's a great way that we can make sure that we're being responsible with this gun. Now, the second thing that goes under gun safety is ensuring that you know your target. Make sure that you're getting the proper training so that when you are putting shots on anything, it's always on target. Make sure that you know your target. 84% of all deaths in the Black community is due to gun violence. And not everybody that dies by a gun, the actual bullet was intended for them. There's a saying that bullets don't have a name. And that's because most people or most criminals in the Black community that are using guns are using it very irresponsibly. very irresponsibly. If you see the videos, like usually when I see a video of a shooting in the black community, usually it's just somebody who does one hand, they doing something like, like they doing some crap like that. And the person that they was actually running a drill on or whatever the situation is not the person that gets caught. It's a whole bunch of innocent bystanders that are getting caught, right? Because the simple safety steps, a simple safety step like knowing your target, making sure you're on target, most people aren't doing that. So now as a responsible gun owner, you don't want to be like that typical criminal. You definitely don't want to be like them. So you want to make sure that you're getting your training, so that when you using this bad boy, two hands on that bad boy to help increase your accuracy, making sure that you're lining up your sights to increase your accuracy. And then also having proper trigger discipline so that you're not just you don't want to be that guy either. Knowing target, okay, boom, that's the threat. That's it. Targets eliminated, that's it. Trigger discipline. Simple steps. Simple steps. Simple steps. Simple steps. Now, the last thing that I want you to think about is knowing the law. Knowing the law. That helps you become responsible because, again, as black gun owners, we also want to be on the right side of the law. Like I could hold a social studies class or a history class where we go over how the law at a time, there was a time in the United States where the law was used against us. There was laws that prohibited us from owning homes, from having basic rights, laws that ensured that we were a subservient class here in the United States. Like I'm obviously not going to go too deep into all of that stuff because that's not what this conversation is about. But basically, the law was not on our side for a very long time. And now that we have more rights here in the United States, we want to ensure that we're not ending up in jail because we know that when you end up in jail, you're basically a slave, because if you really pay attention to what the 13th Amendment says, it abolished normal slavery, but it made slavery, if you're a criminal, okay. And then we also know that they then went ahead and had predatory laws where the police over police our area so that it's more likely that you end up in jail. They also made sure that there's less access to basic necessities that you're going to need, so you're more likely to commit crimes. The system also invest very heavily into rappers, into role models that push some of the things that lead to crime, like drug use, drug selling, gang stuff. Like, again, this conversation, I'm not going to go too deep into that, but we know what's going on. So it's best that we stay on the right side of it so that we don't end up a statistic. We don't end up in jail because of ignorance. So know the law. Know the law. It's as simple as that. Again, this is very important to me because this is something that I see plaguing my community, gun violence. It's almost a part of the culture now, where even young men are being called young niggas, and there's a YNs, and there's a certain stereotype surrounding young black males. And because of that stereotype, there is also like a pressure as a young black male now to to kind of live up to that, because that's what's popular now. It's popular to be a YN. So if you're not coming off as tough, if you're not coming off as, this big macho bad man type of person, then you might be seen as weak. So more men or more young men are more likely to fall to that and then end up in, and all of that. So again, this is a conversation that we need to have. We need to have so that, guns kind of break the tabooness, break the air around guns. Like I remember when I first got my gun, my mom was like, "What you need a gun for?" I'm like, "For protection." "Protection from what?" I'm like, "Just in case," but it's just so taboo in the black community because guns is usually associated to violence. Guns is usually associated to criminals. So it's like, once you get a gun, especially to people, the average black person, they kind of just view you as a criminal. What you need a gun for? Like what you need a gun for is, real taboo. So we have these conversations. So number one, we can be responsible gun owners, own a gun, protect ourselves and our families, but also just have the right mindset around this as well. You don't want to just get a gun and put it in the safe and then hope that one day that you need it, you'll know exactly what to do. Because if it isn't in the mind, it's not. I shouldn't have even done that. Even though this is a fake gun, I don't want to be like, that's not. But if it's not in the mind, then it won't come out in your actions. Because your actions will only follow your operating system. So if like, let's say for instance, all you know about guns is what you see on TV, more than likely when you go to use it, if you don't have the proper training, if you haven't trained yourself properly, you're just gonna do what you know. That's why most people, they pick up a gun and they just automatically assume that this is the way that they should be shooting it, but that's not what you should be doing at all. In fact, you should have two hands on that sucker, especially with a handgun. You should have two hands on that sucker because that's the most accurate, that's the way that you can be the most accurate. Most people, again, they'll assume you just, but you don't want to do that. You want to have trigger discipline. You want to make sure that you put in shots on target, So again, yeah, that's what these conversations are all about. Each one teach one. I'm not a vet in this field, in this area or anything, but I am learning. And as I learn, each one teach one, I'm going to get the information and I'm going to share it with you. Of course, as you get the information, you can share it with me. That's what we're going to do. That's what this whole community is all about. Bettering ourselves, bettering the brother man, bettering the community. That's what this is all about. One last thing. So go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe. Go ahead and do that real quick. Yeah. Think I forgot. Go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe. If you dig in the content, if you like the stuff that I'm putting out, go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't already checked out the other videos that I'm putting out, because I'm putting out the content, go ahead and check that out. Go ahead and do yourself a favor and check that out. Okay? And lastly, this is what we're going to do. Because right now I'm thinking for the long haul. I'm thinking 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 years into this YouTube stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to be vlogging. You know what I'm saying? I'm here. You know what I'm saying? I'm here in the flesh. You know what I'm saying? Peace. What's up? I'm here. But what we're going to do, so I'm Agent 007. You know what I'm saying? Because I love James Bond and all that. But I'm Agent 007. Each one of you from now are going to get an agent number. So if you want your agent number, go ahead and comment in the comments, what's my agent number? And I'm going to go ahead and give you an agent number, right? And then what will happen sometime in the future, I don't know, maybe a year, maybe 2 years from now, I'm going to pull those agent numbers and we're going to find a way to, to pay respects, to give back to the OGs or whatever. That's just something I was thinking about before putting together the video, I was like, yo, it'd be cool if we just had like agent numbers. You know what I'm saying? You know, this ain't no Fed type. We ain't no CIA, or, you know what I'm saying? Like I already said, you know, we just agents of change. So we gonna, you know, get our agent numbers up. Obviously I'm 007, so you can't get that, but everybody's gonna get their agent number. But thank you for watching. You know, thank you for watching the whole video. If you got to this point, again, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notifications bell so that when I do drop a video, you get that automatic notification and you're first to see it. And outside of that, you know, just keep elevating the mind. Keep becoming a better person every single day. That's what life is all about. You know, just bettering yourself, and it all begins with the mind. Thank you for listening. Peace.